Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the beautiful people of Nevis, the beautiful people of St. Kitts, the beautiful people of the Caribbean. Good evening to all of you who are listening in North America, those in the United States, those in the Great White North, those up in Canada. Good evening to those who are in the United Kingdom, those in Taiwan, wherever you are. Good evening to you. Those in Taiwan, it would be good morning because I think that you are now into the next day. But good evening, good morning, wherever you are, wherever you're listening. Welcome to another edition of On The Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and I propose to be here with you for the next 2 hours from 8 until 10 p.m. And at some point, we hope that you will take advantage of the opportunity to call in and to call in early. I always say when you call in early, you get an opportunity to make your points and to make them most forcefully. This evening, I have come here direct from an event that is happening at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, where we were hosting delegates who have come for the CTU conference in St. Kitts, where they focus on telecoms, they focus on internet and connectivity, and they have representatives from all around the region and as far away as Germany. So I was delighted that the Nevis Island administration could host something for these delegates. They're led, of course, by the federal minister, the Honorable Congress Maynard, and they're there and having quite a good time. But my appointment is with you here and On The Mark. So if you're wondering why I'm wearing a jacket, which is unusual for me on the show, that is the reason, because I'm coming directly from that event to be here with you this evening, because this is a commitment to you that I take quite seriously. And so thank you for those who have tuned in. Please share the live, spread the word, and get as many people as you can to tune in. It's important that we continue to support a platform like this, which is all about engaging, all about allowing our people an opportunity to speak to each other, to be civil, to disagree without being disagreeable, and to have a conversation. And I keep insisting on that word, because it's important that we learn how to have a conversation. We learn how to converse with each other. Incidentally, let me make it clear, there's no such word as conversate. The word is converse. I know a lot of people say they're conversating. No. You're having a conversation or you're conversing with somebody. But that aside, the English lesson aside, just having an opportunity to have dialogue, to engage in dialogue with each other. I think that that's important. And as I continue to thank Daniel Brantley, the law firm that sponsors this show and has done so over the past decade and a half, that has kept us on air, that pays the bill every single month to have us on air and allows us the privilege of doing this show without having a commercial break. I believe that history should record that we did our little bit to promote freedom of speech and freedom of expression in our country. Freedom of expression is one of the building blocks of democracy, and it is important that we engage with each other and that we elevate the standard of our engagement, that we are able to talk to each other even when we do not agree with each other. And that, I think, is very important. I have seen in my time people use politics as an excuse for being nasty to each other, for creating enemies amongst each other, for refusing to speak and even exchange basic pleasantries with each other. You say good morning or good afternoon and people refuse to answer because they claim they don't support you. It is absolute nonsense. And I, as leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement and as Premier of the island of Nevis, I have insisted and continue to insist that we be civil. We don't always have to agree. And of course, when election day comes, you vote your conscience, you vote for the future of the island, you vote for the future of your children, you vote for better conditions, and you vote for who you want to vote for. That is your right. But let us not make enemies of each other. Let us be able to have a conversation, to engage with each other, to talk to each other, because at the end of the day, we are all Nevisians. And that, I think, is very important. And this is what this show tries to do. I know sometimes people call in and we get a little testy. We exchange views, and views are sometimes a little stridently expressed. But at the end of the day, the idea behind this show is to create a platform where people feel comfortable calling in and sharing their views and opinions. That's what this is about. Of course, I am the leader of a political party. I'm the Premier of Nevis, and we do engage in terms of the politics. And the politics, by its nature, can be divisive. But again, I believe that I've earned the reputation in politics of being straight, being direct, bringing information that is accurate, and wherever I err, to be able to say to the people of Nevis this: yes, I came up short and I apologize. Because none of us is perfect, and all of us will at some point or the other come up short. But my stock in trade is being direct with the people of Nevis, sometimes saying the things that people do not wish to hear, but the things that they need to hear. And I believe that over the years, the fact that the listenership, the viewership, the attention to this show is still quite high, that people after all these years continue to listen and pay attention, that it means that we have a product that people want, that people think that adds value to the life and times of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider region. And so I thank all of you who have been with us, many of you from the very start, all of you who are still with us, and even those who are tuning in for the first time. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. As I indicated, we'll be here for 2 hours from 8 until 10. At some point we'll open the lines and we'll get your views and comments on the topics that you wish to discuss. Ladies and gentlemen, normally I spend some time engaged with the local politics on the island. If you would have noticed, I have not spent much time in recent episodes of this show, and I have not spent much time because by and large the opposition in Nevis has gone to sleep. There are perhaps no real issues that they can bring to the fore. I believe by any measure the island of Nevis is doing well. There's always room, even when you're doing well, for improvement, and we continue to seek to continually improve on our progress. But there is undeniable progress on the island of Nevis. There are jobs that are available, people are working, people are earning, and the standard of living continues to rise for many. I am confident that the path on which we now are, if God is so good to us to spare us any storms and any type of pestilence or calamity, that this island will continue to do well. Just tonight, I had some information shared with me to say that the Four Seasons this month already has a complete buyout. They're completely sold out for a period of time during the month of October. Why is that important? It's important because usually our tourism season doesn't get going until mid-November. Sometimes it doesn't get going until the end of November, when it starts to get cold in the United States, our main source market, and in Europe. Here we are, just out of the gates in October. I believe today is the 2nd of October, and already the Four Seasons announcing that they'll be closed to the general public because they're sold out. They use a fascinating phrase there. They say we are fully committed, and I like the phrase. I think that it is a nice phrase to use, basically to say that they're sold out. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is good news. It's good news for our workers. It's good news for the allied trades. It's good news for our farmers. It's good news for our fisher folk. It's good news for our taximen and women, for our water taxi operators. It is good news for all of the restaurants around the island, which benefit from a sold out Four Seasons resort. And so I am quite happy in my conversations with the Four Seasons and others. They're saying that bookings are good. They're looking at a robust season. And I am happy that the other sectors of the economy, financial services and the other sectors, that they are all performing at an optimal level. In fact, I would have reported at my recent press conference that in terms of the tourism development levy, which is 2% that is charged on hotel and villa stays on the island, that 2% levy for August, which is collected in September, was over 200% higher than it was in 2019. Let me say that again. It was over 200% higher than it was in 2019. The reason I mentioned 2019 because 2019 was our last year before COVID. COVID, of course, hit us in 2020 when everything came to a crashing halt. And so in 2019, our revenues from that 2% imposition yielded some 200% less than it yielded in 2024. I think that our recovery from COVID and the devastating impacts on our economy, that recovery has gone and continues to go well. And I'm very grateful for all of the stakeholders. I'm grateful to all the stakeholders, let me say, who have contributed to this recovery. So I believe things in Nevis are going well. And it is very difficult when the sun is shining for the opposition to tell people that it is raining and that is doom and gloom. We have had some issues. For example, they made heavy weather of the fact that the St. James Primary School needed some repairs, and that the repairs were done, and that the repairs, which had to be extensive, came late. There are many who tried to make some mischief. In fact, some of them, I believe, know better because I taught them better. But they decided they would try and make some mischief, and I'm not sure why. Because at the end of the day, the work needs to be done, and the work is being done. It may not be done in a time and sometimes the way that other people want it to be done, but the work is being done. And I'm content that with a government with very scarce resources, we have been trying to be prudent and sensible in the way that we administer the resources that we have. We have not tried to squander resources or to engage in projects or products that are unhelpful. Now, I have heard in that vein some measure of disquiet being expressed in some quarters. Usually, the usual natural neighbors of negativity, as I call them, because that's all they do. They're negative. They wake up every morning, they're negative. They're vexed with themselves. They're vexed with everything. And their countenance, you say to them morning, and they're vexed that you say good morning. You say good evening, they're vexed that you say good evening. They are vexed people. They are vexatious in their spirit. And as I like to say about some of them, they're blue vex. Because, you know, CCM color is blue, and some of them, when they see blue, they get vexed. But you've heard some statements being made. I've heard, for example, that we ought not to have invested in the cultural village. We ought not to have invested in the cultural complex. We ought not to have invested and repaired NEPAC. We ought not to have spent any money for Culture Armor 50 and the successful homecoming celebration. They tried to persuade everybody who came home for Culture Armor that the island was dying and on life support and everything here was so bad. And one person who came said, well, everything here is so bad. How come you see so many young people building house? So many young people have their keys to their own house. When I was that age in Nevis, I had no idea that I could own a home. And here it is that young people have the most beautiful homes all across Nevis. In the various housing developments, and NHLDC is not building any jokey homes. They're building serious homes for people. 1, 2, 3, and even 4-bedroom homes sometimes. Then people are building in their own private land and private developments. And this person commented, he said, well, with all the construction I see going on in Nevis, how them set things so bad? With all the roads I see, with the water taxi and the water taxi reception facility, Newcastle, police station and fire station, CCTV command center, the new Treasury building in Charlestown. We see all of these developments. We see schools being repaired and upgraded. We see the hospital project, which notwithstanding that it has stalled, and I'll get to that in a moment, it is the largest and boldest step made in terms of healthcare infrastructure in the history of this island of Nevis. We look around. We see new entities being opened, new businesses, left, right, and center. Advertising and developing. We look at the Malcolm Gishard Park. We look at the extension of what Pinnies, the bars, the restaurants, the vibe that has been created all around Nevis. And so it is very difficult to tell people that outside is dark and raining when people can see the sunshine and feel it on their faces. And so perhaps that explains why the opposition has gone into a sort of slumber. I have described the leader of the NRP and said that she reminds me of, I think the character was Rip Van Winkle, somebody who went to sleep for 20 years and then woke up and asked Wakip. Because you don't usually hear anything until somebody prods her and says, girl, you got to say something, and she comes out with a statement, usually nonsensical, making reference to things that absolutely add no value to the discussion in the country. And somebody, a young person at that, pointed out to me recently. I said, do you find it not interesting that with all the discussion and the debate and the criticisms that have come, not one idea has been advanced. And I took that to heart. And I said, you know what, let me undertake some research of my own. We know that the NRP would have ran an election in 2022, asking the people of Nevis to vote for them and to give them the right to run this country. But they did not even bother to publish a manifesto to say to the people of Nevis, these are the ideas, these are the commitments, these are the projects that we hope to undertake. This is what we're going to do for the elderly. This is what we're going to do in education. This is what we're going to do in health. This is what we propose to do in terms of our tax system. This is what we propose to do in terms of social safety nets, security, the economy, projects. Nothing, zero was said. They went into an election on slogans. Get rid of them, we're fed up of them. That was the election. And I reflected and I thought to myself, if in some alternate universe the NRP had won the election of December 2022, do the people of Nevis recognize that they could have come and done absolutely nothing in their 5-year term because they promised nothing? They made not one commitment to the people of Nevis. Not one plan or program was outlined as to what they would do if elected. You had nothing that you could hold them to. Fed up of them. Get rid of them. Well, we could always say we're fed up and get rid of, but what is the alternative? And what plans and programs are you offering? And that young person made me go and do some research, because whilst I understood that in the context of an election and the absence, complete absence of any manifesto, any commitments made by the NRP contesting that election, I then looked and I said, you know, it is quite true. Everything that the island seeks to do, that the government seeks to do, every investor that the government brings to the island, you can be assured the NRP will attack them. They will engage. They will find the most awful things. They're very good at going on Google and trying to discover all that they can discover. And they will go on the attack. But are they offering an alternative? Are they saying to the people of Nevis, I don't believe that building the road there makes sense. I suggest instead that you build a road in this area. Or I suggest that the money for the road, you use it for that program instead. No. All you get is criticism. And let's be truthful, ladies and gentlemen. Who among us is not able to criticize? All of us are capable. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. What she looks so stupid that shouldn't match the frack there. All of us are easy to do that. But if you should not match the frack, you should also be able to say, this color shoe would better go with that frack. Because that is how people now have an alternative that they can look to. So, I have not had reason to engage too much in terms of the opposition on Nevis because they haven't been saying very much. The NRP now has one seat in opposition, the same one seat that they've had, it seems now, from time immemorial, and they're not really saying anything. And the leader is fast asleep, and so I will allow her to enjoy her rest. Let me therefore shift to regional and international matters, because on this show we try to speak to many different issues. The United Nations General Assembly would have convened and now would be winding down, and all of the leaders around the world would have had the opportunity to make their country statement at that most prestigious and august body, the biggest stage in the world, the UN General Assembly. Our Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Drew, he would have made the country's statement there. And I thought that his statement really struck the right tone. He said the things that needed to be said. But what stood out for me, in addition, of course, to saying clearly our support for Taiwan, saying clearly our support for Cuba, condemning, of course, the violence in Sudan, and calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Our Prime Minister said something, I think, which was profound. And he said that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis are not looking, and I'm paraphrasing, are not looking for any handouts. We are looking not for donations or assistance, we are looking for partnerships. And I thought, for the smallest country in the hemisphere to stand on that stage, the largest stage in the world, and declare to the world that despite our size, despite the scarcity of our resources, we have not come to beg anybody. We are seeking partnerships for development. I thought that that was, for me, a very proud moment. Not the first time that it has been said, to be sure, but to say it in the context of a world now which is increasingly hostile. To say it on that stage. And I heard the applause that came, because I think that people understood that in a very real way the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis was declaring to the world that we've come of age, and that we have not and will not come to the world as mendicants with cap in hand asking for handouts. We've come seeking partnerships. And I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that that is important, and that all of us should feel proud that we have reached a level of development 41 years after being an independent nation, that we can stand up ramrod straight, proud, free, and say to the world that we do not come to beg you anything, we come seeking partnerships for development. To me, that was a profound moment in terms of the UN General Assembly. A lot has been happening, and if I can shift my focus for the next few moments on what is happening globally, we see, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, an increasing propensity for war, strife, conflict. We see difficulties in Sudan and other parts of Africa. We see difficulties in Ukraine, and that conflagration that has arisen as between Ukraine and Russia. We see the situation in Gaza, precipitated as it was, and we condemn it, by Hamas's intrusion into Israel and killing well over 1,000 innocent persons. But the response from Israel in Gaza is to create Armageddon. It is to wreak such destruction that many are saying that there is a plan by Israel to make Gaza uninhabitable, and by so doing chase out the Palestinian people from the Gaza Strip. Whether that is true or not will have to be seen. But in response to the senseless and terroristic killing of over 1,000 Israelis, Israel has now exacted a toll, which the last number I saw said was over 40,000 Palestinians. Many are women and children. And I think Mia Mottley stated it when she spoke at the United Nations, and she said, listen, we can condemn Hamas for its terrorist attack on Israel. We can condemn Hamas unreservedly and say that there is no place in this world for terrorism and for organizations such as Hamas. But we, people of goodwill, can also condemn a response that is disproportionate, a response that wreaks such hardship and horror on so many, that has killed already over 40,000, maimed and crippled, no doubt, tens of thousands more, removed homes and schools and hospitals, obliterated them all. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Israel has now turned its attention to Lebanon. And yes, We understand that Hezbollah, which has been stated by the world to be a terrorist organization, and that Hezbollah in Lebanon has been firing missiles into Israel, ostensibly they say in support of the Palestinians in Gaza. And we understand now that Israel has decided that it will take military action against Lebanon. Israel, we have heard, has exploded certain pager devices and walkie-talkie devices, killing and maiming thousands. We have now heard that Israel has taken out even the top commander for Hezbollah, killing many in the top command structure of that organization. We are just this evening hearing word that Israel might actually now be thinking about moving troops into Lebanon. In the meantime, Iran, which is, we are told, the main sponsor of Hezbollah, has decided to fire rockets into Israel in response to Israel's killing of the leader of Hezbollah. I just want us to pause for a moment and reflect that what started out by Hamas's terrorist attack in Israel, that has now spread to the nigh obliteration of Gaza, and that Israel has now extended its war to Lebanon, and that by its actions in Lebanon and the proxy that Iran has been using in Hezbollah, that Iran has now decided to fire missiles directly at Israel for the second time. The first time they did it, the consensus was that it was largely symbolic. This time around, it looks as if Iran has taken a hostile, direct act to try to cause as much damage as possible in Israel. Now, what struck me, ladies and gentlemen, is that there was a statement from the U.S. State Department. And that statement from the U.S. State Department said that they were not aware of the Israeli operations inside Lebanon, where these big pagers and walkie-talkies were exploded, killing and maiming thousands. And that made me pause, because we all know that the United States is Israel's big brother. Israel, many argue, I think with some evidence, could not and would not be doing some of the things it does were it not for the unconditional, untrammeled support of the United States of America. Yes, Israel has support from Europe, from the United Kingdom and others, but it is the support from the US where it appears that Israel has a free hand, because no matter what Israel does, no US leader has been able to come out and rebuke Israel publicly. And so Israel naturally says, hey, I have the big teacher, the principal in the school is on my side. The teacher's on my side. And so, if I bend the rules or break the rules, if I go and beat up somebody, if I do something, there is no consequence, because who is going to bring me to heel? And so when there is that situation, and the United States can issue a statement to say that they were not aware, they had no forewarning, I pause, because I said to myself that if that is true, it means that Israel is now acting on its own volition. Israel is doing what Israel decides to do. And the danger in that is for all of us. And that's why I'm raising it, and I think we ought to pay attention. Because the danger in that is that if Israel continues to take what appears to be, if the State Department's statement is to be taken as true, unilateral action to expand its military operations from Gaza and the West Bank into Lebanon, and then now potentially with Iran you see what is now happening. Because I will tell you, Iran is no Palestine. Iran is no Lebanon. Iran is a major country with major resources and a significant military infrastructure. And so it begs the question, what started out as a response to Hamas's terrorist attack on Israel has now become a broader conflict with Lebanon, broader than Gaza into the West Bank, and now it appears Iran is being sucked in. Now I want our people to appreciate that a conflict in the Middle East that now brings a major power in that theater, like Iran, into direct conflict, direct war, means that you have the possibility now of pulling in Iraq, pulling in Syria, pulling in people like the Houthis. You have now the real possibility of a major conflagration in the Middle East. And I have been quietly amazed that with all of the meetings that the Secretary of State of the United States, the Secretary of State, the Foreign Secretary, I'm sorry, that as he's called in the United Kingdom, now somebody of Caribbean descent, David Lammy, the councils of Europe, that none of them have been able to say, stop the fighting. It must stop. None of them have been able to say, we will not be able to provide any more weapons or any more aid for weapons unless this fighting stops. And I find that remarkable. Now what I find is even more remarkable is, of course, the suggestion that the politics internal in the United States is part of the issue. We know that the Jewish lobby in the United States is significant. And we know for historical and other reasons that Western powers support the Jewish community, as indeed do I, and as I think is important. But when that translates into a situation that creates paralysis, that even when actions are clearly dangerous, arguably contrary to international law, and create an atmosphere which can lead to an escalation of violence and war in an already volatile region, it seems to me that paralysis and impotence has set in the United States. There's an election. Democrats and Republicans are both fighting for supremacy in terms of the White House. We have a woman of color, Kamala Harris, for the first time being at the top of a ticket, and we have, of course, former President Donald Trump for the Republicans. Neither of them appears willing to wade into this issue for fear that they may say the wrong thing, and by so doing jeopardize the support from the Jewish community. I am saying that politics is important. I'm a politician. But it's also important, I believe, that those who lead the free world, those who hold themselves out as a beacon for justice, fairness, those who say that the rule of law is paramount, those who promote democracy and freedom, those voices must never be paralyzed. They must always demonstrate that their talk matches their walk, and that what they have to say is in fact commendable and worthy of commendation because their words and their actions match. We have seen too much hypocrisy in terms of world affairs. We are countries that we are told to look to as bastions of fairness and justice. Those are the very countries that are promoting instability, war, undemocratic principles in other parts of the world. willing to invade and overthrow, regime change. That's a nice name for it. But the reality is that all of this is undemocratic and in many instances unlawful, contrary to international law. And it brings me full circle, ladies and gentlemen, because a point that was raised repeatedly by Prime Minister Drew at the United Nations on behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis, but also by other speakers from countries far and wide, is the need for reform at the United Nations. Currently, the United Nations has the prominent members of the Security Council and some others who are non-prominent members. But those prominent members, they make and break law. They decide. And oftentimes, it is not based on any morality, any sense of justice. It is rather positioning politically. And blocs and alliances are formed. And so Russia is at odds with the West. Russia is on the Security Council, so Russia will not support certain things. China is at odds, so China will not support certain things. And those countries, can't remember the number now, 5 or 7 or something like that, that are on the Security Council, they basically hold sway. They have a power that far surpasses the power of the General Assembly. And so there's a need for reform. Because sometimes, even if the General Assembly were to come to a particular conclusion and to build a particular consensus, nothing happens. Because at the Security Council level, the big boys that sit there make and break law as they determine. And so there is a need for reform. The United Nations is a critically important body. It is, as many multilateral institutions, designed to allow the smallest of us, like St. Kitts and Nevis, to have a voice. The same stage that President Biden spoke on at the UN was the same stage that Prime Minister Drew spoke on at the UN. We are allowed that because of the principles of multilateralism. And we say that no nation, large or small, should be left behind. That is the value of the United Nations. And that is why we must try to protect, to preserve, and to strengthen institutions such as that give all of us a voice and allow us all to have a say in the type of world that we would like. Now, some of you who are listening may ask, so why is On the Mark tonight talking about Gaza and Israel and Iran and all of that? And the reason I'm talking about it is multifold. One, wars in Ukraine, Gaza, now it appears in Lebanon, possibly in Iran, dragging in Syria, Iraq, and others. They suck up critical resources, financial and otherwise, that the world now needs to tackle serious problems such as climate change that impact us. Billions of dollars are being spent on war. Israel has something they call the Iron Dome. So missiles fired at them, they have a system where they fire missiles that intercept and explode the incoming missiles in the air so that they can't do any damage. I saw something which said that each of those missiles fired from Israel to intercept incoming missiles costs on average $150,000 US. I want our people to put their minds around that. That thousands of these missiles are going up to interdict and stop and intercept missiles that are coming in, whether they're coming in from Hezbollah or they're coming in from Iran. And the cost, I'm told, is $150,000 US for one. In a single night, then, you could imagine hundreds of millions of dollars is spent. And the reason why I raise that, ladies and gentlemen, because we, for example, have here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and more specifically, let me speak to the island of Nevis, a geothermal project that could provide close to free, much lower cost energy, clean, green, cheap energy to every man, woman and child in the entire country of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we have enough that we can export to neighboring countries to ensure that we supply every man, woman and child in Statia, Saba, St. Bart, St. Martin, even Antigua, with green, clean, cheap energy. It is a project that could transform our sub-region. And we have been stuck for 20 years because we can't find the 60 or 70 million US dollars that we need to develop that project. But yet, the world finds trillions of dollars to spend on war. Hear what I tell you? One of those missiles, 150,000 US dollars. One. And that is the reality that we see. That war, rumors of war, conflict, in addition to the obvious death and destruction that it causes, it sucks up so much of the financial resources that when we go for legitimate projects that could be transformative in our region, we are told no money is there, things are tight, and we are given all kinds of reasons why we cannot be assisted to lift ourselves up by our bootstraps and to provide development for our people that is sustainable. So it is relevant to us that we pay attention to what is happening in the Middle East. We pay attention to what is happening in Sudan. We pay attention to what is happening in Ukraine. Because the resource allocation to those conflicts means that there is less and less available for legitimate projects in St. Kitts and Nevis and in the region that could transform our lives for the better. We also have the toll, the death, the destruction, and something that a lot of people have not been talking about when I look at the various talk shows and analyses that I see. And that to me is the rage, the venom, the enmity. You cannot expect that you're going to bomb Gaza and kill entire families and women and children, and those that survive will not have hatred in their hearts towards Israel. Equally, Hamas cannot expect that it can go into Israel and massacre over 1,000 innocent people and feel that Israelis are going to have anything in their hearts except hatred, vengeance, revenge. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, part of the problem. That is what caused 9/11. That is what causes terrorist attacks around the world. People who are saying, you have hurt me and my people and I must exact revenge. I must take vengeance on you. And I shudder to think what our world is going to look like if those purveyors of war continue to see war as the answer. Because war leaves victims, not only the dead, the maimed, the displaced. It also leaves children who have lost parents, brothers who have lost sisters, brothers who have lost brothers, husbands who have lost wives. And what takes place then is bitterness, anger, resentment, hatred, and a thirst for vengeance. We cannot survive in a world where there is so much hatred that people are bent on destroying each other at all cost. And I think we need, in this part of the world, which I am proud to say remains a zone of peace, we really need to take note and to lend our voices, to join our Prime Minister and others who have said that there has to be a ceasefire. Diplomacy has to be given a chance to work. There can be no final solution which means the obliteration of the Palestinian people, to push them into the sea or to push them into Egypt or into some other country, because all that will do, it will simply change the borders of the conflict. We cannot expect that the Palestinians will be displaced and they will stay in their displaced areas content, happy. No. All it will do is foment difficulty and discord in those areas to which they have been displaced. And Israel at the end of the day will be no safer. It will be no safer. The people of Israel will not be able to sleep any more comfortably, because we do not know when somebody will seek to take revenge. So we need a reset. That's a popular word that we're hearing now. We need a reset. The world needs a reset. War is taking up all of the oxygen in the room. The great United States of America, they love to say they don't have resources for this. Even domestically, they can't find money to lift people out of poverty. They can't find money for health care for many. They can't find assistance for people who are American citizens. But they are allocating billions and billions and billions of dollars to war. War. And I think we need a reset, and we need to have that conversation. And it's not enough for small island states such as ours to say, well, it's a far distance away from us and we are not to engage. Morality, the rule of law, democracy, freedom of expression, and all the things that we as a country hold sacrosanct, we cannot abandon them because we say it doesn't involve us. We must always be willing to lend our voices on the side of what is right and proper and decent, what is just, what is fair, to ensure that a little boy or girl in Palestine has the same rights and the same opportunity as a little boy or girl in Tel Aviv. Just as we fight for the little boy or girl in Cotton Ground to have the same rights, the same ambitions, the same opportunities as the boy or girl in Keon, or in St. John's, Antigua, or in Arnesville, in St. Vincent, or in Castries in St. Lucia. We must be willing and able to lend our voices and to say that as a region that has demonstrated, not just said so, but demonstrated that we have the capacity for peace. You don't hear Barbados and Jamaica going to war, or Trinidad and Guyana going to war. Yes, we have our falling outs at times. CARICOM, I've been at CARICOM meetings and they get a little testy sometimes. But we are a zone of peace, and we recognize that there is a dividend that comes from peace. There is a dividend that comes from people being able to engage in dialogue and resolving situations through conversations, through diplomacy, and giving that an opportunity to work. If at the first conflict, the first disagreement, the response is to bomb each other, then as I say, we might be taking what we think is a short-term solution to a problem, but we will be creating longer-term difficulties for those regions and for the world. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my soliloquy for the night. I'm going to open the phones and hope that there are people out there who may want to say something and be a part of the show this evening. The numbers, as always, are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show. And as always, I encourage you to call in early so that you can have a good time, length of time, to say what you need to say and to be able to make your points. Let me go to the phones then. It is 10 to 9 and say, good evening, you're our first caller.
Good evening, Miss Sheriff.
Good evening to you, my friend. How are you?
I am good.
Yes.
John 16, verse 12 and 13. I have much more to say to you, more than you can bear. But when he, the Spirit of truth, comes, he will guide you unto all the truth. He will not speak on his own. He will speak only what he hears, and he will tell you what is yet to come. Have a good evening. May God continue to bless all of us. Good night.
Thank you so much, my dear, and thank you for that beautiful scripture as always. I missed you last week, so I'm happy to hear your voice this week and happy to know that you are well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis, and we're taking your calls, your suggestions, your recommendations, your issues on 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones and say good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening. This is Tiana Williams on behalf of the Davis Disaster Management Department.
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Yes, I'm calling in order to promote our International Day of Disaster Reduction week of activities.
Yes.
Starting October 13th. On October 13th, we'll be starting off with our church service at the Shallow Baptist Church. And from Monday 14th to the 16th, we'll be having a series of staff development sessions centering our theme, empowering the next generation for a resilient future. And then our big event, which is on October 19th, we'll be having a family fun day where there are lots of things promised, a lot of prizes. It starts from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it's a day filled with fun activities, child-friendly activities. We have a domino competition, a football competition, as well as an art competition for our children with amazing prizes. And we just like to solicit the general public support for all of our activities. Thank you.
So, caller, before you go, could you run through the activities again?
Yes, so starting on October 13th, that's our church service at the Shallow Baptist Church. Then from Monday 14th to Wednesday, we'll be having a series of staff development sessions centering our theme for IDDR, empowering the next generation for a resilient future. I forgot to mention, on Thursday, we'll be having a public survey and quiz. We'll be going out to the general public and be conducting a general survey quiz, which promises a lot of prizes. So we'll be testing the general public's knowledge on disaster management. And on Saturday, October 19th, which is our big family fun day, which promises a lot of fun. We have a lot of child-friendly activities for the children. We have a domino competition, a football competition, and an art competition, which promises a lot of big, great prizes.
Thank you very much for that, and certainly I wish all the events well, because there is a need, obviously, to get your word out and to, get the public acquainted with all the good work that you're doing. And so I encourage members of the public to come out and to support. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I did say that I would continue the conversation. We are, however, inviting your calls. So if you want to call in, then please do. I indicated that we have had some noise being made, as the noisemakers are prone to do. That's their job, about the expenditure that we would have done for Culturama in improving the facilities that are available in Nevis. And I want to put that in context, because I was in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I happened to be there just for an event on Saturday evening. And while I was there, I had the privilege of visiting St. John. My wife Sharon was with me, and we had gone to the U.S. Virgin Islands on our honeymoon 30 years ago, and had gone to St. John and had never been back. So this was the first opportunity that we had gone back to St. John in 30 years. It was really nice going back. And of course, we connected with my very good friend Cecil Farrell, everybody know him as Shaq, and my brother, I'd like to say from River Part, the man, one and only Smitty. Connected, and then they got for us a taxi driver who turns out also to be from Nevis, a Mr. Dorr. Was incredibly knowledgeable. He said he's the older brother to Michael Dorr, who is well known by us all. And as we went around, we saw so many people from Nevis. My friend Abju Hill, if he's listening, good night to him. He's there. He has a food truck doing quite well. Good to see him. He looks younger than he was in Nevis. I don't know what he's eating, but looks great. He and I chatted because, of course, he's the grandfather for Kiana Warner, who is our outstanding young student who has just beaten the entire Caribbean to win the CTO Youth Congress that was convened, I believe it was in the Cayman Islands. So we ran into all these people that we know, and Nevisians everywhere. Everywhere you encountered people from Nevis. When we were in St. John, Smitty said to me, you see that parking lot there? That's where they have carnival. I say, oh. Went back over to St. Thomas, and we know St. Thomas is, compared to us, a bustling place. U.S. money, U.S. assistance federally and otherwise. They have, of course, the big brother, the godfather, that is the United States. And another parking lot area was pointed out, that's where St. Thomas Carnival happens. And I smiled to myself because I said, look at Little Nevis. Little Nevis has a cultural complex, a cultural village. It has NEPAC. All of them are plug and play. We now have the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park as well, but then I talk to the creatives. We have created now the infrastructure in Nevis. Some are out there talking about the creative economy, but Nevis has actually invested. And I keep saying to our creatives on the island, I see a lot of them love to jump on Facebook to make noise, but I'm saying to them, instead of going on social media to make noise sometimes, hone your craft and use these venues that have been created for you. I keep asking myself the question, why can't the bands in Nevis, Odyssey, Core, my friends here in Bath, trying to remember the name of the band now, Lord, they're not going to forgive me, but they're going to come back to me, right? Why can't you put your ideas together, come to the government and say to the government, hey, listen, we want to go up there in the village and do something. Easter coming, Christmas coming, with Monday coming, whatever it may be that's coming. Let us start to use the facilities that we have available to us. And I don't understand the reluctance, because I will tell you now, and I'm saying it publicly, the facilities were built for you. Use them. The most difficult thing that I have experienced here is that when Culturama time come around, all the bands, Ultimate Band is the band I was thinking about from Bath, all the bands come forward, say, oh, they're bringing a tune for Culturama. And then, if they don't get hired for a particular show, they start to cuss. You're not giving the local bands a chance. The bands come over from St. Kitts, and when they come over, they start to cuss. Oh, you're paying the band from St. Kitts Grandmaster, then you're paying them more money than us. That's not fair. But when you look at the bands in St. Kitts, you look at the Grandmasters, you look at the Sugar Band, you look at whatever the bands over there, New Vibes, whatever they're called. You're seeing them going on tour. You're seeing them promoting. They're doing this, they're doing that. They are busy outside St. Kitts Carnival. And And them not got no venue in St. Kitts. You see, when I went to the U.S. Virgin Islands, I went to St. John and St. Thomas. I started there. But they don't have a venue in St. Kitts like our cultural village or cultural complex or NIPAC. None. But the bands in St. Kitts, whether they got to go and plug up on some piece of field somewhere, they're out there. You know what they're doing? They're plying their trade. They're honing their craft. They're constantly in the studio. They're creating music. And they're creating a product that people want to buy. I am saying to our creatives in Nevis, listen, the government can only do so much. I can't play guitar, I can't blow trumpet. So what I can do as the Premier of Nevis is to say, I am going to invest in a facility for you to go and play your guitar and blow your trumpet. Go there and create something. The other day I was talking to someone and they were telling me that Burning Flames in Antigua, that band that we all love, they said Flames used to go to some area they call Jampan. I could only repeat what I was told. Go to some area in Antigua called Jampan and used to play there on weekends, and the thing becomes so popular. And Flames name start to go. Now Burning Flames is one of the biggest and longest lasting bands in the region. I am calling on our creatives. Man, somehow you need to stop make noise and start to put your all creativity to work. And the government is here to help and to partner with you. That's why we made the investment. That anybody out there now listening to my voice who decide I want to promote a show, I want to hold a show, I want to have a big band clash up in the village, I want to have a big DJ clash up in the village, the village is already there. All you do is come and plug and play. I like that. Plug and play. St. Kitts not got no place to plug and play. VI not got no place to plug and play. I'm not aware that Antigua has a place to plug and play. Little Nevis. Plug and play. And that is what we're trying to do. So a lot of people who claim that they don't understand or they're making noise here and there, we understand that they have their role. Some of them drink the rum, and when they done drink the rum and they got in some boogal, they start to say whatever they must say. We understand. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we are building out this island in accordance with a particular plan. We are trying to create the infrastructure so that our people can realize their fullest potential and take advantage of that infrastructure. We're not just building roads because we know that nothing else to do. We're improving the road infrastructure because that then enhances people's property value. If you don't believe me, drive in Brownhill, drive up in Braziers, drive in Bath Village. You ask the people whether or not the property values have not been lifted because of the investment that we would have made. We are building out this island step by step, brick by brick. And you know what I love and I continue to love? We're doing it with our own hands. Nivision's building out Nevis for the benefit of Nivisions. We are doing it by us and for us. Very important. And I continue to make the point. Now, we will not always agree, but I want people at least to understand the vision of what we are trying to achieve here. And I want the people out there, particularly in the creative community, to understand that the investments that we have made are investments made to allow them to put their creativity to work, to make money, feed their families, and generate activity in the community. I see now where some big fets from St. Kitts coming to Nevis. I'm going to come back to it. Well, let me take this call. Caller, you're on the mark.
Hello, good night.
You're on the air. Go ahead, please. Good night.
Last week I didn't hear the most comment. It's the same.
Caller, you could keep your voice up a bit, please.
Amen. I said last week I didn't hear you when you talk about Palestine. I must comment the statement there for Palestine last week and the follow-up this week, because I've been articulating that point for quite a while, lonely. And it's glad to see that the Prime Minister stated our position clear. I think that when you spoke sounded like the official prime minister because he was stating the country position on these issues which are quite sensitive. And I think that all you said about Gaza and the whole situation, I want to endorse tonight. But I want to go further with the Cuba business because Cuba is a country that is suffering injustice. Because, as I said before, in 1974 it was the U.S. who created the terrorism attack on Cuba. But today, the hypocrisy of having America imposing sanctions on Cuba about sponsored terrorism is something that we cannot play to. We have to fight. I mean, I'm so disgusted. I feel like we Caribbean countries and globally we have to break the sanctions and start the trade. Until America we could be no longer be dictated by you. We thank you for pegging $1 that we could enjoy some fun.
No, caller, let us be clear because it's important that when we talk, we educate those who are listening as well. The blockade and the sanctions on Cuba have been imposed by the United States.
Yeah, I know that.
And the United States only.
Yeah.
So St. Nevis is free to trade with Cuba, as is Jamaica, as is any other country.
But the sanctions when certain countries trade with Cuba.
Well, I'm saying they try to, but I'm just pointing out to you that we are free to do so. If the U.S. then decides that they want to impose sanctions on third-party countries, then that's a matter for the United States, but it's not part of our law or legal system that forbids us from trading with Cuba. I'm just trying to be clear so that information is clear.
The big stick policy is rating, and so therefore Cuba is still suffering because a lot of things that we could help Cuba, we have quite afraid to extend the hand to Cuba because of what America said. The companies operating in the Caribbean who cannot do no kind of trading with Cuba. Yeah, that is the foreign policy of the United States. And again, the Security Council, I mean, the 5 major who hold permanent seat in the Security Council are the largest arms trader in the world, with the United States using, as the top. Come tell me, what security are they providing? They're providing fuel to conflict. I think we need a world that is led by African people, and the European 400 years of your shenanigans has come to end, you know? Because it was 400 years now, since 1624 in St. Kitts, and we need to take a new direction. All we don't want to talk about is 400 years on this plantation here. We can't take it no more. What kind of future we left for the children if you're going to be able to be at the wits and mercy of racist America? We have to stand up now, and we have to look across this year. Marcus Garvey said, look to Africa. Because, interesting statistics come out the other on BBC about 2 months ago. He said that there are 209 million tons of gold that's above the earth. 60% of that gold rests in Europe. 30% are scattered in banks and holdings around the world. Only 10% is among the people scattered, the people's commercial legacy. Imagine, at least 10% of that gold lies in Africa, and most of it was fallen from Africa. If you were in Africa, could we have access to that gold and be in a better position? And we have to link with Africa so we can be able to help Africans to manage the resources, because our resources are being mined and carried to Europe. Imagine 209 million tons of gold. How much does that come from Europe? And so we sitting down here in the Caribbean, looking to go, they want to force us to go to the IMF to borrow money all the time after they don't manage the country. We must look to be more partnership with our brothers in Africa so that we can raise our standards by our own rather than depending on them and the economic capital, capitalist policies and this twisting. I think the time has come for us to stand up and say that we are not in a small island development, but we are equal human beings in the sight of heaven and in the sight of man, and not being a small island and no poor country, because our financial and island mass don't degrade us as human beings. We are equal human beings as anybody, and I want to reiterate the fact that we are humans, not a small island. We must reject that kind of label about small island. That is discriminatory. And I say, Marcus Garvey said we must look to the east, and This is what I want to say to us. Look to the east. Africa is where we got to go, not to America and the global north. Must look to the east. We can form better partnership like Antigua did with the Iliad and look for more investment. Give thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, and thank you. I always try to give you a good run because you and I don't always agree, but I always find what you have to say interesting. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for your call. I was talking about the creatives on the island and the need and encouraging them to engage, get involved. I was commenting that we see now quite a few of these shows from St. Kitts, Faded, Tropics, they come into Nevis. And I said to myself, imagine Kittitians are seeing the value in coming to Nevis to have these shows. Where are the Nevisians over here putting on these shows and creating value? Because if a Kittitian can stay over across the water and say, boy, money to be made over there, let's go over there and do Tropics, let's go and do Faded. And our own Nevis people who are creatives and have the ability, all them do a Facebook or cuss and make noise. Time for us to get serious. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
If you can give me just a few minutes, I'd like to make a small little plug on behalf of the Butlers Western Holiness Church men's group. Every year we get together and we choose an area to do some cleaning.
Yes.
Last year we would have done an area up in Butlers where some illegal dumping was being done. And this year we have chosen the area of on that road from Church heading up to Mount Nevis.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we did that area back in 2021 or 2022. We would have done that area with the help of the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who sponsored us a bin. But this year again, we're tackling it again because persons, despite the hard work that we put in back in 2021 or 2022, and signs being erected that no illegal dumping should be done up there, persons are still going back into that area and doing dumping again. And so we as a church, as a men group, we have chosen that area. We're going to be tackling it on Saturday, this coming Saturday. We're going to be starting at 6. And so we're inviting anybody who wants to come out and help us get that area cleaned again. We're inviting them to come on out and support the church and support the men's group of the church. Again, I said we've cleaned that area before in 2021, and it's painstaking that that particular road is leading to one of our historical sites and to one of our major hotels here on the island. And persons are going back in that area and constantly dumping. We're able to fill an entire bin, one of those bins from solid waste. We were able to fill one of the bins the last time we did the cleaning. And I can tell you, if we had to press a button and make everything that we had in that bin new, we would have been able to furnish about 4 houses.
Caller, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. Let me start by commending you and the effort from the group, because I think that more of us need to do more community service like that. But I'm a vision to the bone. I've lived here for the vast majority of my life. And I continue to ask myself the question, why are our people doing this? Each day I try to take a little exercise and I walk in different areas. And each morning I find myself taking up bottles, water bottles, juice bottles, styrofoam food containers. People just driving by and throw them out the car. And I'm saying, when did Nevisians lose pride in their island? When did we get like that? Because I don't remember that we were that people. You're talking about a road, as you say, leading to a major hotel, leading to a major historic site. And some of the things that I've been on that road, callers, I know what you're talking. You see televisions, you see microwave, you see all kinds of things that people have dumped. And I ask the question, why? The fees at the dump are not exorbitant. They've been kept at a very low rate because we want people to dispose of waste properly. And yet our people continue. You drive along the bypass road, you drive along the roadways in Nevis, especially when the fellas have just cut the grass, and you're amazed at the amount of garbage that you see. And the question is, why? Why are our people doing this?
Mr. Brantley, you asked yourself the question why, and I've been asking myself the question why too. Because like I said, it wasn't an easy task cleaning the first time. We had washing machines, stoves, TVs, chair sets, pool, pots, all kind of different things. And just like you, I've been asking myself why. Why are people still persisting and dumping their stuff in the area? And I did some reflection, and I, just like you, I was listening to Mrs. Motley's speech to the UN just a while ago, and she kept using the phrase reset. And I think it's time for us to reset, Mr. Brantley. Reset in the sense that a lot of these things that's happening, we know who the culprits are. We know who the culprits are. We know who are dumping these things in the areas, but we say nothing. And I'm sure some of those same areas that you might have seen illegal dumping. I don't want to be assumptions, but I'm sure you would have gotten an idea of who is being dumping those parts, dumping in those areas. And again, I say, it's time for us to start thinking like what Miss Motley was saying, and we have to reset. And when we see these things happening, we have to make sure that we call out the persons who are doing. And I think that's where we have to start. When persons are having their yards clean, you have to make sure that when you're paying somebody to take away your trash, that they're not dumping it in the gut next to them. You're paying somebody to move out your trash out of your yard, but they're going right up the road to the gut next to you to dump the trash. That doesn't make any sense.
And taking your money.
Yeah. It's just taking your money. And so, we could spend all night on this. On how we can resolve it and why people are doing it. But again, Mr. Brantley, I think we have to reset, like you said. We have to reset, and whenever we see these things happening, we just need to call out the person who have been doing all these illegal dumping. And based on some of the materials that you find there, you know who the culprits are. You know who the culprits are. And so again, I'm inviting anyone who wants to volunteer to come down to Cockle Church. We start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we'll be cleaning up that road again in less than 3 years. We'll be cleaning up that road again because it's important. It's a tourist attraction, and it's leading to one of our major hotels.
Okay.
And so we're inviting volunteers to come on out. We're going to try to spend at least 3 hours there because the days are getting pretty hot. And so from 6 to 9, spend about 3 hours there, and you will see how much of the garbage that we can get out of the area. If you'll allow me to give some businesses who have come on board and partnered with us by providing some refreshments. They're providing some refreshments that will have some water and some juices and all that different stuff. And so I want to say thanks to the Nevis Hotel and the management up there. Also want to say thanks to Runaway Grill. They've come on board. Dexter and his crew down at the Runaway Grill. I want to say thanks to Steve Tyson down at Nelson Spring Waters, and also to Mark Fuller and his team down at Drift. They've all come on board in terms of providing some refreshments for the persons who will be coming out to assist with the cleaning up of that area. And thank you, Mr. Brantley, for allowing me to get this word out. And it's important, it's painstaking when you see what we call quote-unquote white people on this side of the road cleaning up garbage And then the very next day you see vehicles passing and throwing garbage in those said areas. And no, we need to change our mindset. I mean, me personally, if I'm drinking anything, I throw my trash in my car, and so my car is always messy for that reason. I throw my trash in my car, and when I get to a location where I can dispose of it, I dispose of it properly. Thanks again, Mr. Brantley, for hearing me out, and we're looking forward to having the general public come down and support us, the men of the Butlers Wesleyan Holiness Church. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, and excellent work by you and the men of the Butlers Wesleyan Holiness Church. I hope that people come out and support what is very important. And I'm hopeful, caller, that other people around the island will take the lead and help to clean up their communities, and that our people will regain something we used to call it shame, pride, whatever you want to call it, but have some pride in their surroundings, because I don't know that anybody would be home in their house, they eat the chicken, eat out the styrofoam thing and just throw down the container in the living room. So if you wouldn't do it at home, why you believe that you must throw down your container, just throw them out your car? I walk, I see bags of garbage. Clearly somebody have the garbage in the car, and they have the garbage rather than taking it to a bin, and there are bins all over Nevis. They just fling it out the window. We need some pride. We need some patriotism. We need to love this island and treat this island properly. Treat it like we love it. This island is so beautiful. It has given all of us so much. Man, there's simple things we can do which demonstrate that we truly love Nevis. Can't be that we just holding out our hand for what Nevis could give us, and then we can't show that respect to the island and to each other. So caller, I hope that people come out. I hope that more groups do this, and I'm really hoping that our people can do better. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello, good evening. This is Mavis Parrish.
Hi, Mavis.
Hi. You asked why. I heard one of the why. One of the why is that our parents are not raising our children. It may be a harsh thing to hear, but it's a reality. We have gotten a little bit of money in Nevis now. So rather than hustling home from work and go home to plan activities with the children, or go home to cook, we find ourselves, both men and women, hanging out at the bars, saying they have to take one. They're stressed before they go home. They're not thinking that maybe we can walk to the beach with the children and be stressed that way. That's one. Two, we're raising a set of microwave children. Ping you in, ping you out. When I say that, is that they want something and they want it with very little effort. You give them a button to sew on, that's my subject. Any hard, and the needle dig up your finger, and they wouldn't even think, well, how can I hold the needle to prevent it from digging up my finger? What is the easier? They do no thinking. They just want it to magically jump onto the fabric. That's two. Three, priorities. How are we spending our money? What are we investing in? A lot of us is not investing in ourselves. We say we have the creative economy. Yes, there was a great big workshop a couple of weeks ago. I heard about it last minute, and I took some students. I spent my personal money to get them on a bus over to Marriott and back to the pier in Barsphere. It cost me over $100, but I did it with pride because I wanted them to see what is going on. Now we're talking about creative economy and the building the infrastructure here. And I wish our people were there to hear Scott Dunn, the dream big event planner of Jamaica, where you have this great big event for 3 days, 1 weekend, and people booking up for that event without even knowing what acts are going to come. But you know what? We need to see that it's not that the glory, they see the glory, they don't know the story of Scotland. Scott then tells of his experience. The very first show he was putting on with Elephant Man and all the big names those time out of Jamaica down there in the late 80s, 90s. And the very day he planned that event, put all his money, put a lien on his house, rain come, there was no show. He had to find a side job to pay the bills from trying to host that event. He has learned from that event that you must have an alternative venue. But our people are not investing, because if they had spent that 15 US, sign up for those classes, they would have learned a lot of things happening in the creative industry. I took my nephew, he learned about costume development. He's always drawing costumes, very much fascinated with it. So what are we doing? Are we investing ourselves? We're looking at YouTube. Are we looking at how to hone our craft, how to get better at it? These are the things that we need to do. And we need to know that the creative industry is right there for everyone. Like you say, event planner or something is coming to need and we have the venue. What are we doing up here? Just talking? Just expecting somebody to hand us a ticket and say, come? It doesn't work like that. You have to sit down, think about it. Pull people on board. You must have a variety of people around you. You must have the old woman in your event to say what the older folks are going to need. You must have the teenager in your event to say what that crowd is going to need, so that you can create an event that is versatile, that is acceptable. But guess what? It comes with a story. It comes with grunt work. It just doesn't come big overnight.
Well, Mavis, stay on the line for another 2 minutes with me, because I like to talk to you, because I find you to bring a certain wisdom to topics. I believe that that same mentality that you spoke about, will you call it microwave mentality?
Yes.
I think it is also influencing even things like the creative economy. Why? Everybody's waiting for somebody to do it for them. You know, I listen to people all the time, and I'm in government. And when you put yourself in certain situations, you recognize that you will get some criticism. And I don't shy away from it. In fact, many times I welcome it because it helps me to do a better job. But I hear the constant refrain, oh, you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough. I spoke to a lady recently, and the lady tell me her business isn't doing well, because the government not doing enough for small business, the government not help people. So I said to her, what do you think the government should do? She said she should get free electricity and free water, right? And the government must give us some kind of grant. I said, all right. If we did all that, and you're selling chicken, you're going to sell more chicken? Because you know have free electricity and free water and you get a grant? I said, at what point do you look at your business and say, well, what is it I'm offering? Is what I'm offering what the public wants? If not, can I tweak it? Can I change it? Can I adjust? And it goes back to what you are saying. Are our people willing to invest their time, their effort, do their research, learn to improve their skill set? And if they're trying one thing and that one thing isn't working, the ability to pivot and do something else. What I find is happening, going right back to the point you were making about we want everything now. Our people have this attitude, it seems, that listen, it's for somebody else to do. So going back to the point I was making about having the venues now for our creatives to let their creative juices flow and do something, right? The only thing that people wait for is for the government to have a concert. So the government gonna have whatever concert, freedom concert, whatever. Oh, me need a gig. You need to hire me to play on the concert and charge you $5,000, $10,000, whatever it may be. But you need to have local people playing on the concert. And while I agree with exposing local people, my point is, why do you have to always wait? Why can't you come to government, or you go to whoever, you go around to sponsors and you say to TDC and Hospital and them, listen, partner with us and we're going to do something great. You talk about a 3-day festival or whatever the case may be. And I mention the St. Kitts promoters for a reason. Because they're staying over there in St. Kitts and seeing opportunity in Nevis. They're coming over and using our venues in Nevis, you know. And we are sitting down here in Nevis, and all it seems that we can do is criticize and complain, and you're not doing enough for me, and you need to do this for me, and you need to do that for me, and you need to hold my hand. And we are saying that we need to step up in a world that is getting increasingly competitive. That type of approach is going to make sure that we finish last.
Yes. And you know what, too? I'm going to hate me and I don't care. I'm an educator, and the back could take it all the time. The foreigners are going to come here and take advantage. And you know why they're taking advantage? Look at all the small stars with the vegetables around. Somebody had to teach them how to take 2 vegetables together and start vending. Huh? No. They needed something. They were motivated. They got up and they go. They stay sometimes. Some of the vegetables them go bad. I had to tell some of them how to, you know that planting could make banana bread? Huh? They didn't know. But then they were able to save it by making banana bread, either to eat in their home, to give to their friends or something. And this is what I am saying to our people. No, you said they want to come on the Freedom Council. Come on, man, everything is not money. It's not all about money. They could have come on the Freedom Council without getting $5,000. And at the next school year, when the child comes to go high school, they get some textbooks, they get this, they get that you've made sure was available for these people who are given to the community. But they can't see it. They think that as soon as they do something, you must give them dollar. They forget something's name. Hand go, hand come.
Well, caller, I want to say, Mavis, to you on that point. There was a young woman, I can't remember her name now, but she appeared on the concert we had to celebrate Heroes Day. And I was quite intrigued when they reached out to us. The same lady who got the artists for us, who we had here, Taurus Riley and Mr. Killer, right?
Yes.
She reached out and said, listen, there's a woman who's trying to break out as an artist. We're going to pay her airfare and everything, right? We're not going to charge any money to the NIA. She just wants the opportunity to be on a big stage with people like Taurus them. And we said, okay. The lady came, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry, but she came on her own dime because she just wants the exposure. She wants the opportunity for us to hear her music and get her name out there. And that is what I look at and I say, there are people out there who are prepared to invest in what they do. I had a fascinating meeting just this morning. Hope he doesn't mind me calling his name. He's my good little buddy, Casey Jeffers. Casey is emerging as one of the leading photographers in the New York area, doing work for major magazines around the world. He is just here because we brought him back to do a photo shoot here in Nevis for tourism. You know Casey, right? So Casey was just here doing a photo shoot for tourism, a massive photo shoot. And we told them, we have talent, Nivision talent in New York, bring him home to do it. And so they brought Casey. And I'm talking to Casey and I'm listening to him about his journey. And Casey's telling me how much work he puts in, how he reaches out to people constantly. He attends events constantly to meet people just to promote himself and promote his talent. We have to get into that mode. We cannot continue to sit back and say, oh, the government must give me this and the government must give me that, because the point you're making is true. People are coming into Nevis. They're seeing and grabbing opportunity. You talk about those food stalls. You know, there was a point when Nevis was supplying all the food in St. Kitts.
Oh, yes.
What they used to call them, Tunhan?
Tunhan.
Yeah.
With them basket upon them head.
So we have known for generations how to sell, how to engage in commerce. Well, how now we forget, and everybody just sitting back, and you know,
back and raising a bunch of fat children. I will call it our seed. I was making some netball skirts for 10, 11-year-olds and 9-year-olds, and would you believe they were weights for 41, 40, 38, and 37? When I telling you, I was fat. I was 42 once. and I am now 38. What you telling me? Primary school children. Go home, take the children and carry them a beach. You go down there for the weekend, you go for the holiday at the beach, empty, empty, empty. Go walk with the children. Go name the bush and them. Go do something with our children. Lord, let's have a conversation with them. By the time you start, I had a sex education with my students and I put it to the computer and I couldn't even believe. I had my parents calling me. I tell them, the pen drive is not for any old USB port. When you take anybody pen drive and put it in a USB port, you get virus. And it's same thing with sex. One of us have the pen drive and one of us have the USB port. And these are the things that parents are not even talking to them children. Some of them say they don't eat, they wake up in the morning, they may find a piece of bread with a relish in it. But then no parent because the parent doesn't work. Yes, I applaud you for going out to work. So since you went out early, make it your business to come back home in the afternoon, to talk to your children, to educate your children, to give them self-love. Children have no pride in their uniform. I am not talking here business. Let them wear the hair natty. I don't care. That's our black hair. I am talking about when you have a skirt that should be pleated and it looks like a parachute. And when you have a blue shirt and it wrinkles so, and you want to know if the person crawl out of a battle or out of a donkey mode, chewing on it. These are the things. When children tell you, you write a note and they pull out a piece of paper without cutting it with a ruler or anything. They have no self-love, self-care, self-motivation. And we need to get up and do better. Let me tell you something, another incident. We were going to school for half day. And my daughter was in 5th form and I said, well, I'm going to school, I am leaving you home. You come in, you're going to do the science. When I go and send her to do science in the morning up by the lab, 3 days before it is time to put the grades in the system for safety, the teacher come tell me she don't have any work from my daughter. I said, she did the experiment? He said, yes. But she screamed something and I told her to correct them. I'm yet to see them. I grabbed a metal desk foot and I went after her and the security come after me. And I said, put up my hand. I said, let me tell you something. This ain't a teacher and student here. This is this mother push out this child who is going to deliver what I asked her to deliver. Boy, I don't know, but he did 15 experiments in a one day. What she couldn't do in the 2.5 months, she did in a one day. And these are the things that we have to hold our children accountable for. She had a poem to learn, she wouldn't sit down and learn it. We driving in the car and I said, say after me. Say it loud. Didn't they teach you that technique? Talk to yourself, say it loud. Repeat after me. By the time we reached, she was hesitating. I stopped my car, I pulled a stick, and I said, by good God, this money that I work for, and make sure that I'm giving you an education, so no man will knock you both. You going to say this poem. When we reach a school, who said the poem? And I said, if you think you're going to forget, you better volunteer to the teacher to be first to say the poem. So he running in a volunteer first. Because, he's too sure that he would have keep it in the head. Because that was only 15 minutes of learning the poem. And we must hold our children to high standards. They can deliver, but they want somebody to make them accountable.
Thank you, Mavis. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your contribution, as always. I wish you could call in every week, I'll be honest with you, because I love the conversation. Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. We have 20 minutes left. It is 20 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock, and we're taking your calls on 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Incidentally, I just got a WhatsApp message that tells me that the group from the CTU and ICT conference, many ministers from around the region, I'm told that they don't want to leave. That they're having such a good time down there at the Malcolm Gishard Park, and that the Honorable Congress Maynard actually performed for them. He's a leading Calypsonian, so he performed for them, so they're having a great time. So I'm really happy to hear that, and thankful we had good weather and they can enjoy the hospitality that Nevis offers. We have, as I said, now about 19 minutes left, and so we're taking your calls. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Mavis, Teacher Mavis was just on the line. And she said a few things I think that will ruffle some feathers. But it perhaps points to a need in our country for us to start to have real conversations. We are engaged in a lot of platitudes. We're engaged in a lot of telling people what they want to hear, trying to condone things. It's important, I believe, that we have a real conversation. And some people get very upset with me. They tell me that I don't understand, that I don't care. They say all manner of things. But it is not that we don't care, we don't understand. I have lived a life. Praise be to God, I'm still here. And I know where I have come from and the journey that I have walked. And if I could do it, anybody else could do it. Some have done it even better than me. So the point that I'm making is that sometimes we need to share our experiences, but to talk in a way that people understand. And even if some may feel offended by it, they have no doubt where you're coming from. And what Mavis is describing is a part of the problem that we have in our country now. Nevis now has money, meaning that our people now are far better off than they were. The days of my mother having to use one tin of Vienna sausage to feed all of us, those days are no longer the norm in Nevis. The norm in Nevis now is that people have the resources to do what they want to do. You go out to the finest restaurants in Nevis, you see them full of local people celebrating their birthday, celebrating whatever. They're out tables 18 and 20 sometimes at a table. People now are enjoying a certain standard of living. Yes, there's poverty. Yes, we have pockets of difficulty. But I'm talking about the majority of our people are now firmly in that middle class and enjoying a certain quality of life. Families now have not just one car, but sometimes more than one. We're building better homes. People are opting to send their children to private school where they have to pay. Where in Nevis you used to hear them kind of things. So the reality is that we're doing better. But part of doing better is that our parents, many of them, are also working harder. They're doing 1 and 2, sometimes even 3 jobs because they want that additional money to do what they need to do. And I say more power to them. I like to see people hustle. But like Mavis said, we are raising in some cases microwave children. Everything has to be fast. So we're no longer going home and trying to cook a meal. We don't got time for that. So we buy chicken and fries. We buy whatever is quickest. And that in part then leads to the obesity that she described, which then is a trigger for diabetes and hypertension later in life, and adds to the crisis with NCDs that we are having. So I hope people see how all these things are connected. Are we spending time with the children? Are we educating them? Are we instilling in them the principles? Because the microwave mentality, the Instagram mentality, they need everything now. I need to outdo my neighbor. I need to dress better than he. I need to dress better than she. She get a car, me want a car too. That child, they get a bike or roller skates for Christmas. My child must have that too. It's a whole complex web. And it comes back to what the gentleman said. We need to reset. And people don't normally hear this kind of talk from politicians. You know, politicians are programmed to tell people, no matter what foolishness they do, you're right. You're right. But I said I have made a career on speaking directly and truthfully and honestly to people. And I don't mean any offense, but I do think that we need to get serious about this island and about what we're doing as a people. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Honorable Black. Good evening.
Good evening to you, brother.
I like your topic tonight. Your topic is so good tonight. What you think? How you think those band in St. Kitts reach where they is today?
Well, maybe you can tell us, because sometimes I wonder if I am seeing things wrong. So you tell me, how you think they reached to where they are today?
Years go by, those bands used to go out in basketball court from one village to the other village. And also, what they used to do is put money on the side and buy their own instrument to play on.
Mm-hmm.
But today bands, today youngsters don't put money together and buy their own instrument. Today, what they want you to do is hire a system for you to play on, for them to play on, and they turn around and got to pay them. Each band used to have their own instrument long time. You know, and what you're saying is so true, because in Nevis, just like in Tatola, they have a lot of talent. Artists get together, they could get together and say, listen, a holiday coming up, let us speak to a person who have a system, and let us have a reggae show. You know, and as you say, go to some sponsors and also get your people together and have a meeting and say we're going to put on a show for the next holiday come up. And you start to promote each other. And I think that's where everybody will see the talent in the country. I always saying that. It seems like they don't want for them to come out. You have to hire them.
Well, that's the problem, caller. And you know, they wouldn't even say, well, like I said, this lady said she gonna come pay her own way just because she want the exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guys them are gonna say, yes, you must hire me, and oh, you must pay me the same money that you're paying whoever, because you know you need to promote the local acts and whatever. And you say yes to all of that, we understand, but we're asking them now, what are you investing in your craft? How are you developing? You know, there are some musicians in Nevis, and I'm going to say so because it's true. They only play once a year in a culture armor.
That's what I really like ask the question. Where is the band name in Nevis, which I don't hear them no other time about them? You understand? Which I said, if you listen to them band out of St. Kitts, they just play in St. Kitts a lot. Sometimes no one don't have to hire them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the same in Tatola, where you have a holiday. A band can get hire in system and go and play.
And another thing, and the thing that I'm pointing out, caller, in a lot of those places, they don't even have a venue that's available where you could just plug up and go. In Nevis, all the bands in Nevis could get together tomorrow and say, next weekend we're having a big band clash in the village. You have a ready-made venue. You just have to plug and play. And that's the investment that the government has made. Anybody in Nevis tomorrow could say, we're bringing in a reggae artist, we're bringing in a soca artist, we're bringing in an R&B artist, we're having a show. You just come forward because we are saying we build the place for you. Instead of that, you know what we're doing? We're getting cost. People that say, oh, you spend all that money and only time culture armor time. But why is it only culture armor time? Because the venue is there and people now can put their creativity together, put their resources together, put their ideas together. And I go back, this is the third time I'm saying it for the night. If people over on our sister St. Kitts could look across the Nevis and say, let me go over there and organize shows over there. We want the Nevisians. Why we and our creative people can't get together same way and say, let me organize something?
Look at the steel pan you have there, the young souls them with the steel pan.
Yes.
what I see in Culturama, a holiday can come up and play in the same area, continue playing. They don't have to wait till next year come. They could have these youngsters practicing and playing out on holidays. They don't have to have somebody to hire them. This is a thing that we as, when we use the word, like people, we always want somebody to spoon feed us. And I like the topic tonight because we have a lot of artists here in the BVI and we have a lot of good beaches here in the BVI. And also I have the person them who have stall and so set up at the beach. Sometimes I speak to some of them and they will tell you they will, help put in some money. All they have to do is come up and play and even got their own stall and they can make money. They don't have to wait for somebody to hire them. Which I tell you the problem is have now. You have to rent a system for them and still pay them to play on the system. Long time, which I said, the band them years go by, they never look, the players never used to look money. All they used to get money and buy piece and piece of instrument till they get a whole system and the band have instruments for themselves that they can play anyway without hiring any system. But not today.
Well, caller, I'm hoping after the show tonight that the bandmen, but not just them, the other creatives, that they step up. Right? You talk about steel pan. You know when they have panorama in Sinkers for Carnival, that the majority of the steel pans competing are from Nevis? You know when they have panorama in Sinkits, sometimes they got 6-7 bands competing and all 4 and 5 of them come from Nevis. So by the same token, why we cannot arrange the pan people get together and say, man, we're going to arrange a little panorama competition in Nevis? It doesn't have to be Culturama. It could be something you put on for Independence, you put it on for Easter, you put it on, as you say, on a weekend. But the truth is that we sit back. Everybody's waiting for the government to say, we're going to have something, and then people know, say, oh, you need to hire me. How you ain't call me to be on the show? When I am saying that we have created now the infrastructure for our people to take advantage of. Man, I'm nearly prepared to say, man, I want to go and use the venue. Once I clean it up and keep it, you know what I mean? Go and use the venue. Let us build something here because we have done our part as government. It is now up to the creatives to step up and do their part. And they can't just keep sitting back and then just wait. When you hear Culturama coming, you start to hear ping, 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 ping. And them trying to come out with a song for Culturama once a year. When you got an entire year, 365 days in the year, when you could be making money, plying your trade and doing something. So that is really why we have made that investment, and that's what I'm trying to explain to people, that we are not investing as a no for no. We're investing with a view that those in the creative sector can really transform this island and start to be innovative and do things because they have the government support.
Alex Christmas coming up. The steel band then could get together and start to make their own money that they could buy their own pan to add other players that they have instrument to play on. They shouldn't have to wait on nobody. They should go out and fundraise their own money that they can buy their own pan. You understand? Which I said, just like in the BVI, we have talent shows, we have people to model. They can model at the beach and make them own money. But as I say, we always say they always want somebody to hire them. But I will continue listening let somebody call in.
All right. Well, thanks for the call, and I think the calls tonight have been meaningful because You all have said some of the things far better than I could, but that is exactly the point that I've been trying to make. Our people need to step up. It don't make no sense you say you got band and you could play music and you could play whatever, and you sit down until culture armor come. You start to chuchung.
All right, good night.
Good night. Go out there, ply your trade, develop your craft. You hear what I say them tell me? Me don't know if it's true. But they tell me Born in Flame used to be a jampan. Plain. You always hear Small Axe and them having something. Grandmasters having something. Somebody doesn't always need to hire you. You must now be in a stage where you say, listen, I need to grow myself. I need to invest and develop. So that when you get to a point now where you're actually having a paid gig, people say, what? Core playing? Odyssey playing? Ultimate Band playing? What? Me got to pay to go? You crazy? That's me band. Me got to go. That's what you need. But the only way you're going to develop that is if you continue to develop your craft and hone your craft, and you continue to use the facilities that we have. And I go back to it. I know people are going to fed up and hear me tonight. But other countries and islands around here with big bands developing. Look at Sink It's, New Vibes, Small Axe, Grandmasters. Then you have, what the rest of them name? When you got a couple others too. That good. Lord, pour me out of the band business. But you got some of them that are good. Another one they're trying to remember its name. So them they were in Europe sometime. But these are all bands in Sink It's, and Sink It's doesn't even have one venue. Not one single venue where they could say tomorrow keeping a show. Any place they go, they got to go build up something. Unless they go in Warner Park or Kim Collins Stadium. And even there they got to go build up stage and all of that. In Nevis, you could go to the cultural village tomorrow morning and say we're going to get a show in here tonight. And all you got to do is plug and play. That is what this government has done. That's the investment that we have made. That is the reason behind the investment. Well, Lord, if we take the horse to water, all the horse have to do is drink. All the horse has to do is drink. So these are some of the things, ladies and gentlemen, that we definitely need to talk about and have just an honest conversation with each other. Because you see this sitting back, waiting for somebody to give you, waiting for somebody to do it for you. The band is striking up, but I'm going to say this before I go. Do you know, even in terms of scholarships that are available here in Nevis, free education, people can get a free degree. You know what I am hearing? Some of the students are saying they need somebody to fill out the application for them. The reason that they are not applying, because they need somebody to fill out the application for them. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back to this topic, because once I'm in this position and I have even one person who's willing to listen to me, I'm going to have the conversation. We need to do better. We need to step up. We need to insist that our people seize the opportunities that are available. That we re-inculcate in our people the principles of hard work, discipline, and doing what we need to do. Because that's the only way that we're going to build a sustainable society. The banner struck up, it means we have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for all who have called, all who have been a part of the show. My brother Everett Weber Herbert, if you're listening, good night to you. I'm happy that you're doing well. God bless you. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful night's rest. And thank you for tuning in. And you can listen tomorrow again, right here at Von Radio at 1 p.m. Good night and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcast.